Danny, what are some of the practical ways you've seen organisations tailor wellbeing initiatives for diverse needs culturally, or I knew I was never going to be able to say this word. Neurodivergently. There we go.
Yeah, so this, man, I could talk about this for ages. So I'll try and keep the answer short. So there are multiple ways you can do stuff. So I think if you are an organization that hasn't been doing much in this space, I would start by maybe using relative awareness weeks and events in the kind of cultural calendar to kind of start on your journey. So as you know, it is Mental Health Awareness Week this week, and this conversation is nicely timed. You know, in organizations I've worked in, one of the things we did is we blocked out the whole week of Mental Health Awareness Week, and we had events and practical sessions across the whole week, across a number of different activities. And we said to people, you have a menu of stuff that you can tap into that was work and personal and, you know, mental well-being as well. Wherever you have time in your week, please sign up to these things. We absolutely welcome you. Come and join, so on and so forth. So that was one thing I would say. So try and maybe link it into kind of World Mental Health Day, you know, World Mental Health Awareness Week. The other thing I would say from a practical standpoint, and Rebecca made an excellent point about this, is that well-being, you can link well-being into performance. So when I came out of COVID, one of the things we did in the organization I was working at the time is that we introduced, like she's just done in our organization, we introduced well-being conversations into our performance management cycle. So conversations like a one-to-one, yeah? So usually one-to-ones you have is around performance, around coaching, around career. We actually said, no, the well-being of people is fundamental and critical to someone's performance. It's directly correlated. So actually we should give our managers well-being questions and a template to allow them to ask questions around their well-being, so the person feels that the person cares about them and they're able to at least express how they're feeling. The manager is not meant to kind of solve those well-being things, but what they should be able to do is direct them to the resources that are internally. So one of the practical things I would say is ensure that you have training for your managers on what are the well-being and mental health resources within an organization, so they feel comfortable to be able to direct their teams to those resources. So they're not just going, right, go to your HR business partner, go to your people and culture team, and we're inundated. A manager should feel comfortable enough to go, these are the resources that are available to you. These are the kind of questions I can ask you to bring out those well-being information so I can direct you to the right place.
Yeah.
There's more I could say, but I'll stop there and let Nicola jump in. So I know she's got a wealth of stuff in this space.
I feel like each topic we could probably talk about all day, couldn't we? Nicola, how can organisations ensure equitable access to resources and support without diluting their impact in time or budget constraints? I know you've mentioned previously that they're hard to reach. So how and why would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll sort of extrapolate from what Danny's just said, which is about a diverse menu. So gone are the times that we do wellbeing because we have a wellbeing walk on a Wednesday. Like that doesn't fly anymore. And listen, if you're a tiny organization and that's your first thing, then absolutely brilliant. But you know what? We need more. We need a diverse range of things for people. The hard to reach are hard to reach for a reason. Now, what you've got to remember is that we're putting these things out. I don't know, maybe it's an app, maybe it's a workshop. And the people that are accessing it are what we've classed in health as the worried well. So they're already eating chia seeds. They've got a self-help book at home. They go to the gym and they probably are managing their life quite well. And they're looking for that extra bit, 2% gain.
Yeah.
Who we need to help, and again, I talk a little bit about kind of socioeconomics too, are the people who are struggling with a number of responsibilities around their neck. They are financially, in some kind of hardship. So many of us are. They have no time in the day. They are coming into work. They are struggling. They are going home, and it is full on until they go to bed, and then they do it again the next day.
Yeah.
To suggest well-being here is a difficult one to put to them because they're just managing. So whether we're talking about eating more healthily or whether we're talking about managing mental health, we have to find ways to support people to work in a time that works for them, with a tool that works for them. And a lot of times people don't want to be seen doing it, especially it's like when we think about mental health, it's like someone who's really perhaps unfit, feels very out of shape, going for a run along the street with everyone looking at them. They wouldn't want to do that. And nor would someone want to go to a wellbeing workshop when they feel so ashamed and guilt-ridden and not sure, you know, how they feel about stuff. So having resources that people can tap into that are accessible, that speak to people, you know, that speak to whether it's you know, males or whether it's, you know, a different group, and that you have to look at the language you're using. So I mean, I'm probably complicating it, because probably HR people listening are thinking, wait, so that means I have to kind of put this into all different languages. And the truth is, yeah, you do, because that's how you're going to reach everybody. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it has to be accessible. And I mean, I could talk a lot more about this, but I just want to touch on another thing, which is neurodiversity. So we often put out things around ways of working, you know, use this kind of, you know, time blocker, use this technique. For someone with ADHD, that's the last thing that they would align to or tap into. And we have to offer, you know, it doesn't, you know, it just takes a quick Google search. There's lots of writing now. How are those people going to work with, you know, body doubling, leaning into energy zones, you know, removing distractions. There's so many different things we can do. So
just want to quickly jump in and say that when I actually looked at a study, people with ADHD are 4 times more likely to suffer from burnout. People with autism are 2 to 3 times more likely to suffer from burnout. So just
and because the typical burnout reduction strategies that we're suggesting, they don't speak to someone who is working from a different starting point. So I mean, I feel like I've just opened up a can of worms, because the answer is to be equitable and inclusive and accessible for people who are hard to reach, for people who are neurodiverse. It's about expanding it, but it doesn't have to be complicated.
This is where and I hope you have this in your organization, this is where you should be tapping into your diversity employee networks. So in companies I've worked in before, I've been responsible for D&I, and I've also been responsible for supporting our ERG, so they're called employee relationship groups, you know, D&I networks. And most good organizations will have D&I networks across the core protected characteristics. So, you know, ethnic minority network, sexual orientation network, age network, maybe sustainability, neurodiversity network. And actually, you can ask these networks, what are some of the things we should be introducing to support well-being in terms of your kind of insight and your network? And just those questions I ask and working with these networks, the amount of things I was able to introduce into the workplace. So for our neurodiversity network, they said, is there any way we can sponsor Grammarly licenses for some people who have, you know, who are dyslexic? So in terms of helping them with grammar and all that kind of stuff, we were able to introduce quiet booths that were soundproof, so people who are neurodiverse could kind of cut out the noise and kind of concentrate on their work. We were able to introduce financial well-being sessions for people who are struggling, like, you know, first-time homeowners who needed mortgage advice, needed how to manage their money. So there are loads of things you can do. I think you should also just tap into asking your people, and if you've got a good relationship with them, they will give you answers.